Trump's corruption is just getting out of fucking hand. It is crazy times. Now, we already talked about his Middle East corruption tour where he's securing golf resort deals in Oman for $500 million, or he took a $400 million jet from Qatar, who, by the way, he has a $5.6 billion golf resort deal with too. How he just did a crypto dinner with a whole bunch of crypto bros, a couple of them who would not come in the country under Biden because they would have been arrested because they were so goddamn corrupt, so overtly corrupt, they would have been arrested. So they couldn't even come into the country. But now that Donald Trump's president, they're having dinner with the fucking president, man. So Donald Trump's corruption is just out of fucking hand. But also it's petty too. I remember when he first took office, he was giving Joe Biden a hard time about his pardons of, his son, his family, or any of the pardons he was doing. But he was not so much complaining about what pardons he was doing. He was complaining that Joe Biden he's using an auto pen, folks. He's not even actually doing the signing. He's got a machine doing the signing. God, he's so fucking petty. He's such a child. But the corruption that we're seeing from Donald Trump, he took the plane. He took the jet. He took it, which is the biggest violation of the emoluments clause we have ever had. But he's wheeling and dealing with foreign governments all over the place. Any place that he can get a hotel. I just heard one today. He's got a $1.5 billion deal with Vietnam to build a golf resort outside of Hanoi. What the fuck are we doing, folks? What are we doing? I mean, Chuck Schumer, where are you at? The president is literally making bank as president. I mean, I remember when he did his the very beginning of his tariffs. I remember seeing Vietnam had at the very beginning had like 65% tariff on Vietnam. I wonder if this has got anything to do with that $1.5 billion golf resort that they're building in Hanoi. This is pay to play. This is come, kiss the ring, offer him some tribute, and then maybe I'll let you go on the tariffs. That's what it seems like to me. Because everybody has come in and kissed his ass and told him what a wonderful big boy he is and that he's the bestest, and then he makes a deal with them. So last week he had the South African president that came in, and the guy, he looks at the president and he goes, "I wish I had a plane to give you, Mr. President." He goes, "I wish you did too. I would take it." They're not even fucking hiding it anymore. It's insane. But like I said, it's not just this big, huge corruption. It's also really petty ass shit too. You can buy Donald Trump for a lot cheaper than a couple of $1 billion. Although if you're talking a couple $1 billion, he will leave the White House and go directly to you and kiss your ass. He'll talk about how MBS is he's such a man, folks. What I wouldn't do for MBS. He's so good looking. Oh my God, I would drop down on my knees for MBS. He's the best thing since sliced bread. Donald Trump would go down on MBS. I remember during his first term, they chopped up an American resident who is a reporter, Jamal Khashoggi. They chopped his ass up. And they didn't even get a slap on the wrist because Donald Trump had a weapons deal with them. And when the Senate actually went to the president and was like, "You have got to stop bombing Yemen. You've got to stop funding that genocide," because Saudi Arabia was doing a genocide in Yemen at the time. And Republicans and Democrats put their feelings aside and tried to force Donald Trump to end funding to Saudi Arabia. And then, they managed to get it passed, and Donald Trump vetoed it because he's got a weapons deal with them. He loves Saudi Arabia. He fucking loves Saudi Arabia. I mean, this is the guy on the day of 9/11 while it was, the buildings were gone and it was still smoldering out there, and he was being interviewed, and the first thing that Donald Trump thought of was that his building is now the tallest building in Lower Manhattan. This is the guy we're talking about. Anyway, I digress. Let's go to some of this petty stuff. He has been pardoning people, and they're all the best people. I mean, you remember, I believe if it wasn't the first day, it was the second day he took office, January 20th or January 21st. He pardoned over 1,500 of the January 6 rioters. And some of them had been rearrested because they're just such blatant fucking criminals. But he pardoned them all. He pardoned every last one of them. The ones who were out there beating cops with Trump flags and American flagpoles. He pardoned them all. He pardoned the guy who had Camp Auschwitz on his sweatshirt. He pardoned that guy. He pardoned them all. Every last one of them. I remember Joe Biden, when his Justice Department, they weren't just going after Donald Trump. Although they went after Donald Trump, in my opinion, way too fucking late. Merrick Garland, I don't know what the hell he was doing. He was just napping for the first fucking 2 years. That should have been the very first thing that Merrick Garland did when he was appointed, was set up a special task force to investigate what happened at January 6th. But they didn't do that. They waited a long ass time. And, Joe Biden, he pardoned, he did preemptive pardons on the people like Liz Cheney, who, by the way, I'm not really a fan of, but he pardoned anybody who was on that investigative team. And, of course, he pardoned his son, too, which didn't have a good look. But the fact that Jared Kushner is soon as Donald Trump left office, he got a $2 billion deal from Saudi Arabia. So don't give me shit about, Hunter Biden earned, a couple $100,000 from his deal with Burisma. Yeah, it's corrupt, but it makes this look like kindergarten chicken shit stuff compared to $2 billion. Anyway, when Joe Biden when he was his Justice Department went after Donald Trump, they wasn't just Republicans he went after. He went after Bob Menendez, who is the senator from New Jersey, who had gold bars and $100 bills sewn into the linings of his suits, and he was getting new Mercedes Benz, and he had a trophy wife and all that shit. Joe Biden's Department of Justice went after him too. So it's not like it was some partisan thing. The Justice Department was going after criminality. That is what the Justice Department is supposed to do. Not like what Donald Trump is doing, weaponizing it, going after anybody that even says anything remotely against his will. So, but I remember when they were going after Bob Menendez, Donald Trump had sympathy for him because Donald Trump has sympathy for criminals. He has sympathy for people who do fraud. Anyway, I got a clip for you from CBS, and here, check this out, and then we'll talk afterwards. Ah, shit. Went from the wrong one here. Let's see what they got to say here.
President Donald Trump has pardoned yet another loyalist who found himself in hot water with the law. We're talking about former Virginia Sheriff Scott Jenkins. He was convicted on fraud and bribery charges in March, sentenced to 10 years in prison. Well, a jury found him guilty of deputizing businessmen in exchange for cash in his county, but instead, President Trump's pardon power makes Jenkins a free man. In fact, in a Truth Social post, Trump called Jenkins a victim of the Biden administration, claiming he was persecuted by the left. He
The
went on to say
radical
the former
left.
sheriff does not deserve to serve a single day in jail. And let's keep this in mind. Jenkins is the latest pardon that Trump has given to loyal supporters. In April, Mr. Trump pardoned embattled Nevada Republican Michelle Fiore, who...
Remember, I did a segment on Michelle Fiore. She is I believe she was the Las Vegas, like on the town council or something like that. And yeah, she was on the Las Vegas City Council. And there were a couple of cops that got killed, and she did a fundraiser for them. And then she took that money and paid off some of her daughter's wedding, and then spent the rest of it on fucking plastic surgery. You know, I mean, all of these women, all of these Republican women, they all have like Mar-a-Lago face. You know, they're so pumped full of silicone and Botox and Brazilian butt lifts and shit. She literally spent the money on plastic surgery. Anyway, here.
awaiting sentencing on federal charges that she used money meant for a statue honoring a slain police officer instead for personal items, including plastic surgery. So let's bring in Glenn Thrush. He's the Washington correspondent for the New York Times covering the Justice Department. Glenn, what more can you tell us specifically about the Jenkins case, and what made President Donald Trump push the button, get out the pen, and pardon him?
Well, let me give you a little breaking news here. My colleague Ken Vogel just reported on a third pardon, a former health executive named Paul Walsack, who was just pardoned for a series of tax crimes after his mother lobbied for his pardon and raised millions of dollars for Trump's campaign. What we're seeing here, to put it really bluntly, is Trump and company redefining criminality. These are not people who are sort of marginal. We're not talking about, for instance, J6 rioters who sort of lingered outside the building, as some in Trump's camp have argued. We're talking about people who committed gross crimes. The Culpeper County Sheriff Jenkins gave away deputy sheriff's badges for thousands of bucks. There are two FBI, including to two FBI undercover agents. Fiore, as you pointed out, apparently used money that was raised for a statue, a memorial for a fallen police officer, for her own personal use. And this guy Walsack, who my colleague Ken Vogel just wrote about, used tax proceeds, stuff that was supposed to go to the government, to fund this extravagant lifestyle. So be very clear here. The President of the United States, who ran on a law and order platform, is essentially saying these are people who committed crimes, but they didn't commit crimes because...
Look, this is Donald Trump's MO. He's a fraudulent guy, and he looks at these people and thinks, it's cool, man. They're my people. I don't think that they should be going to jail for the things that, I would do. We talk about that sheriff. He was selling badges. He was selling, honorary deputy badges to his rich friends so they could go around and speed or, do whatever the fuck they wanted to. And if they ever got in trouble with the law, they just whip out, I'm a deputy. I'm an honorary deputy. Call the sheriff. He'll tell you so. I mean, some petty ass shit. That guy, I believe he was going to get 10 years. And, right before he was about to go to jail, Trump gives him the pardon. I mean, normally, people need to apply for a pardon. They generally have to have had served some time in jail, for their crime. They need to show some kind of remorse, and they have to exhaust all of their appeals before the pardon process can even begin. Donald Trump seems to have just circumnavigated that whole thing and just pardoned before you even go to jail. So the fines, the jail time, it's over. All of the work that the prosecutors did, all of the work of the jury that found him guilty, it's just thrown out on a whim because Donald Trump believes that, fraud and criminality is cool with him as long as you give him a little tribute, or as long as you kiss his ass like the January Sixers did, or like this sheriff did. You know, he's a big old Trump supporter, walks around with a big old MAGA hat. Donald Trump's like, look at that hug right there, big old chubby boy. I like the cut of his jib. He's very nice to me, so I'm going to let him off. But listening to these, you know, with the Michelle Fiore plastic surgery nonsense and this guy, and then this other one that I heard about today, this guy, whatever his name, Ballsack or Walsack. His mother went to a Donald Trump fundraiser that was $1 million a plate, and she petitioned him, you know, about her son, who, by the way, screwed over doctors and nurses for about $10 million worth of their salary. He screwed them out of that and used that money to buy a fucking yacht. Boy, that's right up Donald Trump's alley. He bought a fucking yacht with doctor and nurses' salaries. You know, it's just like the Michelle Fiore. She took memorial money for 2 cops who were shot. She took that money and got plastic surgery and paid for her daughter's wedding. But that's not all. I got more. There was this other guy. His name was Watson, Charles Watson or Carlos Watson. He had a media company called Ozzy Media, like not O-Z-Z-Y, but O-Z-Y, Ozzy Media. And he, Jesus Christ, this guy, he got 10 years for fraud. Apparently, he had frauded investors of about $96 million. He got 10 years in jail, and he was ordered to pay back the $96 million that he defrauded investors. You know, he's like, oh, I've got this company and this company over here. If you give me some investment money, I'll be able to stick it in there. And he didn't have any of those, you know, companies to invest in, so he just pocketed the money. You know, but Donald Trump, pardon him. There was this other guy. His name was Trevor Milton. He was entrepreneur of some kind. I think he was making electric cars, and he donated, he did some fraudulent shit with his investors, and he was about to go to jail for a number of years. I think he was ordered to pay like $4 million, and he was supposed to go to jail. He donated $2 million to Donald Trump, just got pardoned. He doesn't have to pay back the $4 million he defrauded, and he does not have to go to jail. So for half of the money that he was going to have to pay back investors that he ripped off, he just gave it to Trump. Gets off scot-free. All it took was a little bit of a donation. And one I just heard recently, there were some reality stars. I think the show is called Chrisley Knows Best. It's a husband and wife. They were defrauding. They were defrauding small community banks in their area for a number of, I think it was like $36 million, and they did some shuffling around where they borrowed from another bank to pay off the loans on this bank, and that's fraud. And then they didn't pay any taxes on the money that they were making from their show. But their daughter, Savannah, who, by the way, spoke at the RNC last year, at the Republican National Convention, Savannah, just another MAGA, blonde hair, blue-eyed bimbo. She speaks at the RNC. They're big MAGA people. She did an interview with Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump. I believe that's Eric's wife. And soon as she did the little interview, Donald Trump reached out to her and told her that he was going to pardon the parents. I believe that they were sentenced, the father and the mother. The father was sentenced to like 12 years, and the mother was sentenced to like 7 years. And their daughter gives a little interview to Laura Trump, and presto, pardon. So Donald Trump is not just doing corruption in the big leagues, whether it's, foreign nations, whether he's doing deals for them for hotels and resorts, or it's something petty like this where, he just doesn't care. If you're willing to pay me some money, some tribute, you get off scot-free, man. You don't have to worry about going to jail. Everything is fine. Everything is cool. You come to me with some cash and I'll make sure that you never have to do the time. So I guess those days of law and order, you do the crime, you're going to do the time, those days are done. They're done. Because, Donald Trump looks at you as a fellow traveler. A fisherman can tell another fisherman from afar. You look like my kind of guy. You're a little corrupt, I'm a little corrupt. Let's do a little corruption. What do you say? Oh, man. Jesus Christ. We're so fucking cooks. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.